You got a question then?
Yeah, really talk about those on YouTube. Yeah. Mortgageable versus cash-only deals. Is one better than the other? What are the pros and cons?
Hi, I'm Jess.
I'm Adam.
We are forthelandlords.com. We make landlords more money, save them hassle, and get them their time back. And today it's an slick.
Really
and
slick.
Today it's an ask Adam, ask Jess. Adam asks Jess, not slick. And you got a question then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, it's more of. I think we're going to run for the next few weeks a bit of a FAQs.
Okay. Yeah. Cool.
Because we get asked a lot of the same things each time we run a discovery call, and we don't really talk about those on YouTube. There's probably 20, 30 questions that you can pretty much guarantee when you first meet someone. We're always going to. So I'm going to go through a few of them. And today's one is mortgageable versus cash-only deals, and why is one better than the other, or is one better than the other? What are the pros and cons? So just going to run through that really.
And whether people use just the idea of mortgages, or whether people use mortgages or not, how loan to values and those.
We have a process for finding, fixing, and renting houses for clients, and that includes us finding rundown wrecks of a house, getting it at a cheap price, managing a renovation and then the letting, or we go out there and we just find a nice mortgageable house. The client puts down 25% deposit and away they go. It wasn't something we always used to do, but we do that now as well. There's pros and cons to each, and I thought we'd just run through that.
Okay.
All right.
So just the pros and cons. It's not really. It's a general question. It's a discussion. It's a discussion.
Yeah.
Adam, it's not a question. So people might know, but personally, I've always, since I started investing in property, right from the beginning. There's a couple that weren't quite that way, and in between there's been a few that I have just bought with a mortgage, but I generally buy a wreck, do it up, and then mortgage it out afterwards.
I've done both.
Yeah, absolutely. So Adam's bought places where you just put a deposit down and bought a house.
It was a bit touch and go. It did need quite a bit of work, but it was just on the verge of being mortgageable, and I was buying off someone I knew. So it was easier.
So the first thing to mention, I would say, is if you buy a wreck of a house, actually it doesn't even need to have to be a wreck. If you want to buy a wreck of a house to live in yourself, the threshold where you can get a mortgage is a lot higher, low, whichever way you want to look at it. If you say
more opportunities to get a mortgage on a wreck if you're just buying it with a residential mortgage.
To live in yourself.
They know you're going to move in, look after it, do it up. It's fine.
The buy-to-let bit of a buy-to-let mortgage means this needs to be ready to let, guys, and if it's not, then I'm not going to give you the mortgage to buy-to-let. So some people would look at a house and go, I'd live in that, and I can get a residential mortgage on it to live in it. It's got an avocado bathroom suite, and the kitchen's from the 1980s. It's fine to buy with a mortgage. And if you want to live in it, that would probably be true. It might not be, but it probably would be. But if you want to rent it out, then a buy-to-let mortgage probably wouldn't cover it. So that would turn into a cash deal pretty quickly. It's not a personal opinion. This is fact. I mean, it varies. If you can afford to buy a property in cash, you'll probably get a better deal.
Yeah.
100%.
The best way to stretch an investment pot of cash is to buy the wreck with cash, renovate it, and then refinance it, and get 85-ish% of your cash back out.
Yeah.
Within a year, rather than tying yourself into a mortgage deal.
Yeah. If, on the other hand, you haven't got cash to buy the whole property and you want to divide it up into smaller chunks and buy mortgageable properties, so that's something that's already in good order and it can be rented out straight away, then it's not that dissimilar. When you look at the numbers run over a 5-10 year period, you'll be able to buy more houses. So cash will probably buy you one house and renovate it, and then you wait 6 months, you pull it back out. Whereas with the same pot of cash, you might be able to, rough numbers, the kind of houses we buy, you might manage to buy 2, 3, or 4 in one go. And then leave them for the long-term capital growth, maybe pull money back out of them 5 years later. The fact you bought it with a mortgage, you might be able to get a little bit of a bargain. Our property sources will go out there, and we're not paying market rate. I mean, you're not going to get a 20% margin off, but you'll get, £10,000 off the asking price, or maybe a bit more.
Or you might just pay asking price because it's a good house in a good area,
of course,
and that's fine too.
Yeah. the things, we're talking about pros and cons, always remember that even if it looks, so every time we buy a house that's a wreck, we put a £3,000 contingency on the job. So let's say we think it's going to cost
on top of the
on
renovation.
top of the renovation. So we think that the renovation is going to cost £15,000, we budget £3,000 for unforeseen stuff. You should still do that with a house that you think is mortgageable. There can always be something. So just the fact that it looks like it's okay and it's ready, the boiler's fine, it's been on the wall for 6-7 years, it looks, everything's got a certificate, everything's fine, all the plumbing's working. The day that tenant moves in, if it was an owner-occupier living there before or someone else, then you might find little snags that need doing. So that £3,000,
electrical upgrade certificates,
that kind of thing. So that's a pro and a con. So getting a real bargain, cash, stretching your money.
Some of the pros to the cash one, and that is there's less competition to actually buy it, because most people don't really want to do a renovation. Someone who wants to buy a house to live in, most of the people buying a house to live in, they want to move into it and it's all right, it's nice already. Some people only buy a house which is really, really nice already and they don't want to touch a paintbrush. If you're buying a mortgageable house from a buy-to-let point of view, you're competing with then your first-time buyers, your own occupiers, so it's harder to get those ones. Then you might have to pay a skim. Yep,
absolutely. If you buy it with a mortgage and you don't have to do the renovation, you'll get a tenant in there quicker. That's sort of 4 or 5 months. That's it. Buying with cash. So what we haven't talked about, and some of our landlords do this, buying with cash, just not ever mortgaging, not the fact that they're getting a good deal. It's just there's a nice house, whether it's a wreck or a nice house or whatever, but they're buying it cash straight out, and they never mortgage because of course as soon as you get a mortgage, you've got to pay the mortgage out of the rent, and that affects your yield. We've got plenty of clients who.
I know someone who only wants to buy what he described as semi-posh. Semi-detached houses. I paid 250 grand in cash and I just rent it out.
Yeah, and that's actually if you don't get a mortgage, it's quite a good.
And I quickly realised after half an hour of trying to convince him otherwise, what's the point? I'm not going to convince him. I know he could do better, but in his mind that was the best. That's it.
I think the important thing. So when Adam's saying try and convince, we do come at this with a particular slant, and I've got to always be aware that I'm doing this way. I've been doing it a long time, and we've been buying houses for about 20 years now, and I'm still growing my property portfolio. If you're a landlord who wants, let's say, or you're not a landlord yet, and you want 5, 10 houses, something like that, and you know very specifically, I'm going to work at a job or a business, whatever you own, and I've got this money that's being made every month, every quarter, every year, whatever it is, and I just want to park it in a property bank account. There's nothing wrong with that, and that kind of, I know that mentality that chap's got there is absolutely right for him. And what Adam does and his team, anybody who is either a landlord or wants to be a landlord comes in. We call it a discovery day, a discovery call. It was a long time since it was a whole day, wasn't it? We used to have people actually physically driving to the office, and now it's on a Zoom call. So it's a discovery call. Lasts an hour and a bit, an hour plus questions. So you get to talk about all the things, this in depth, 2-way conversation. But after that, there's a one-to-one, and the one-to-one would go through. First question, probably about the third or fourth question is, get to know a bit about you and where you're at. But one of the important questions is, how much is enough? What is your aim? What do you want to achieve? There's no. If you are in your 50s and you've got this much money coming in every month and you just want to get to that, what's the point in trying to build a portfolio of 300 houses? You don't need to. I need.
The one-to-one
10 houses owned in cash.
The one-to-one is a planning session basically, and then we take away your order basically, the shopping list that we send out to our buyers.
Final point. So I think we've covered the pros and cons of buying a house.
Let's just summarise them. Yeah. Pros. Go on then. Summarise really quickly. The pros to buying the wreck in cash.
You can get a little bit of a better deal.
Bit of a better deal. You'll stretch your pot of cash because you'll renovate it, make it really nice. Actually, you'll future-proof it too.
The renovation's done.
Yeah, and then you pull a large chunk out. You're stretching your cash. Correct. That's the main pro of doing it that way.
Yeah.
Con. Any cons to that?
Well, but how about the pros of the one that's not bought in
Oh, yeah,
cash?
go
It's the
on.
same thing. It's easy, it's quick. You don't have to do a renovation. It's less risky. You know that you've paid what it's worth. You're not going to lift the carpets up and
It's been surveyed by
surveyed.
a mortgage
It's
valuer.
easy.
Yeah.
You can instantly rent the thing out, and it's a nice, easy vanilla box.
So then the flip side of that, the con to that one, the mortgage one, is you're not stretching your pot of cash. You're tying up your deposit money for 2 years or 5, but you get in, the tenant in quicker.
Yeah.
And then the cons of the cash only wreck of a deal.
It's very capital intensive.
Yeah.
It can be risky. You lift up the carpet, you find something you didn't expect. That's an analogy of the carpet. You probably check that on the survey. You find something in the fabric of the building.
I would say it feels slower to begin with.
Yeah.
Because you're doing that work, you have to wait till you've owned it for 6 months to put the mortgage on. And in that time, so that's probably 2 months to buy it, 6 months of owning it, in that 6 months you've renovated it, now you've got a tenant in. The person doing the mortgageable ones might have bought 4 houses, and you'll feel like, oh, he's ahead of me, he's got 4. But his 4 are tied up now for 5 years. Yeah. Over the next 5 years, you'll be well ahead if you just keep repeating that process.
Correct.
So it feels slow to begin with, but then it picks up speed.
My point there was, if you only want 5 houses, you don't need to do the
Maybe
bit
you
that
don't.
picks up speed.
Maybe you don't.
You just like, I'm done. That's the big advantage. It's very easily. It's what most landlords do. I'll just go to the estate agent, buy a house off the shelf, out of the window, and we do that. We've got property sources across the UK, and they'll go in. They won't buy it out of the window. They'll make sure it's the right house in the right area. They'll make sure it's a good deal. Probably won't pay sticker price. Or maybe they will if it's a really good bargain. But they'll do the due diligence for you. And then we've got another side of the business, another team that would buy the rec and do it up. Final point, and it's why do I buy with mortgages? I buy with mortgages. Simple as that. So why? The classic example is the £20,000 invested in, let's say, stocks and shares that you can't mortgage. So cash on cash, if that £20,000 market goes up by 10%, you make £2,000. If you take the same £20,000 and put it into a property that's worth £100,000 because you've got a mortgage, if that market goes up by 10%, then you make £10,000. So that's the difference that mortgaging makes. That would be 80% loan to value. My example there, which is probably not something that you could get in this market. You used to be able to.
Might be soon.
Yeah, it might be soon. Yeah. Personally, I'm below 70% loan to value. That's actually not through choice at the moment. That's where I'm pegged at by the lenders that are open to me. Once you're a portfolio landlord, you get choked back a little bit on what lenders will lend. My personal opinion is, if you're growing, and I'm still growing, I'll take mortgages wherever I can to help me grow to get to the point where I want to get. I'm not there yet. I'm still working, still in a job here, and we're still buying properties. There definitely will be a point in the future where I'll change my mind on that, and you can always turn things down and start to pay stuff off. An interest-only mortgage, that's what I'm on, can become a capital repayment mortgage if you start paying it down, and then you deleverage, and eventually you get to a point where you don't have mortgages. So it's all in a landlord's control. The important point is to understand the pros and cons and know where you can alter things yourself and how long it takes and what effect it makes. And that's what the one-to-one's for, isn't it? So
there we go.
Yeah, if you're interested in hearing more, discovery call is the first step, the first thing to look at. Come along for an hour, get your questions answered, pique your interest, and then after that, if you want to take it further, a one-to-one would be where you could work through all those different numbers. So that was pretty in-depth, wasn't it? That was a good FAQ.
Not bad.
I like that.
All right.
It's almost like I know what I'm talking about. Almost. Right, cheers guys. Bye now.
See ya.
Hello and welcome. I forgot what we say now.
Yeah.
I'm
Jess and I'm Adam. We are forthelandlords.com.
That was it, all that.
Yeah. Say that.